Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome to your Monday edition of Second Breakfast. How you doing out there in TV land? We saw OG was in the house for a second, but he had to run. I guess that's fine. It's Monday. We all got a busy week ahead of us, or at least that's the story I'm sticking with. The boy had to get up at 3 a.m. this morning to go take some tests for National Guard. Uh, yeah, not ready for any of that. What's up, bad news? How you doing, man? Hope you got some good news for us. Let's see what do I got going on. I was watching Arbiter's Archives, I think it was, and they someone chat, I forget who, said, "Hey, Solomon Kane from Monolith is on sale, half price." So, like a dumbass, I went all in, and that's going to be here Wednesday, and I ordered that like Saturday. I think it was Saturday they did that. Could have been Friday, but I don't think so. I think it was Saturday afternoon ish or Saturday evening. I forget, but I was hanging out with those guys, just hanging out in the chat, and I grabbed it, and frick, it's already on the way. I'm like, holy crap, what am I gonna do with that? I wasn't, expecting that quickly, but a big box of minis, a big box of books and dice and DM screen and all that. Just because I'm a dumbass. Oh, I love Solomon Kane. I actually like Solomon Kane more than Conan for various reasons. More my kind of a hero. Plus, who doesn't like the idea of a brace of freaking flintlocks strapped to your chest, ready to blow some gas head off. I fixed my air conditioning on Friday. I'm still sore. I had to replace the fan motor. I am sorry to hear that, bro. I know what you feel. I know you feel. I had mentioned my back, injury like a couple of 3-4 days ago, and now it hurts. I'm like, son of a. So right before the show, I dropped the Tylenol. Hopefully that'll kick in, any minute because um, I haven't really been. What's up, Mister Mister James? How you doing, man? He's been sending me some really cool stuff. Only made it through like one and a half making muffins. I enjoy baking when I can clear out the oven from all the pots and pans that have been stored there. Um, but we did bake the hell out of some ribs and some scalloped potatoes. We cooked all morning for a Saturday. I think it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. The family was coming to visit. I mean, I cooked my ass off. Right, uh, 6 racks of ribs, big ass pan of scalloped potatoes, green bean casserole, all the other stuff that go with it, baked beans and scalloped apples and bread and everything. And I was up here doing something. I was in I was in a game with OGGM and Grandma and Jen and Mike from Married with Gaming. I come downstairs and there's like nothing left, and I'm like, where did it all go? Oh, I sent most of it home with them. I'm like, you're freaking kidding me. The boy wasn't here. He was at a birthday party. So I'm like, you at least saved a plate. Oh yeah, I was saved him a plate. It's like we spent like $400 or $500 on dinner, and you sent it all home with them. Well, one of the guys, he brought his new wife to meet us. Um, very very run of the mill Latina. I don't know what he saw in her, but just going by his previous girlfriends, I'm like, kind of settled, did you? There's something special going on. Obviously they got married, but I'm like, I know the guy. He usually goes for a completely different type. It's like, she rich? Is that the deal? What's going on here? Um, but I was kind of bummed. It was like, hey, uh, when I make that big ass meal, I expect leftovers. Not just here's your plate and thanks for cooking everything. I'm like, anyways. Fortunately, the boy did get a nice healthy plate. Raspberry white chocolate muffins. Okay, that's interesting. What's up, George? Where the hell you been? and eyeing some 15 and 10 mil. Uh, yeah, I'm just going all in. I'm trying to get all the Reaper medals that are, you know, catching my fancy before they're just not available. Because I got this feeling, Reaper has made not one but two grievous errors when it comes to making non-metal minis, which they were the kings, right? They were like the most well-known name of metal minis, and now they're going to be just like everybody else, in quest for the mighty dollar that it's going to end up trickling in as pennies because people are just not. Why pay Reaper when you can pay anybody else? If all we're going to be getting out of the miniature industry is 3D prints, you you just like slit your own wrists, right? All the average guy's got to do is, go get a one of the new 3D printers, a couple $100, and then as they see fit, they can print whatever they want, and you don't even have to pay for STLs. By and large, you can get them, pretty easily. Yeah, get them while you can. I want to replace the Hero Quest minis with Reaper Metal. Maybe not all of them, but start with the heroes and then work your way down from the big monsters. Orcs and goblins. That's gonna make your Hero Quest box like mighty heavy. And there's nothing wrong with their orcs and goblins, but maybe the demon and or the gargoyle they call them, or the chaos sorcerers, which, to be honest, I really like the originals. The original chaos sorcerer and the chaos warriors with the fucking big ass armor and those big battle axes. Uh, uh, those were the best. I did the same thing with Talisman. It was great. I only played Talisman once. I think I got turned into a frog or some such, and I haven't played it, since. And that was a long time ago. Over 40 years ago, I want to say. But I did get some really cool ones. I got this. This is a throne for uh, Dagoth the Defiler. He's like a vampire dude. Came with this really cool, which wasn't in the image. This really cool like concubine holding his helmet, and then of course Dagoth. And like I was saying in the show last night, he comes with four separate heads. One is helmeted. So, like, why would you do that when she's standing right there holding his helmet? Well, he's got like two helmets. You can't decide. Two like Nosferatu skull-like heads, and then sort of a very handsome-looking, dapper fella that's actually in the image, and that's the one I'm going to go with. That way, I've got a horned helm for somewhere else, and then a couple of vampire Nosferatu skull-looking skulls elsewhere. He's got this cool broadsword. He's just kicking in the throne. And I got those two. What's up, Edgelord? I got those two plus 8 other blister packs. One had 2 mouselings, a couple of paladins. She's right here. Hold on. She looks vampiric, but she's got a tail. Kind of sexy, and almost topless. They get the. I've seen a couple of minis lately where there's like these chainmail triangles that cover just from the top down, so the undercarriage is completely exposed, but it covers. Anyways, I've seen like several minis with that style. It's like they didn't have enough chain links to finish the bra ensemble thing. Um, Whatever. But like I said, a total of 10 blister packs for $30 on eBay, plus shipping, which was like $10. Um, it was just like, yeah. Even though there's a couple of minis in there, I don't readily have a use for. Like there is a necromancer, so that's cool. The 2 mouselings. Here, I'll just rattle them off real quick. I got them right here. I haven't opened them because I've already got a crap ton on my desk, and these can wait. Um, 2 barbarian mouselings, a crusader champion, heavy duty, very, very sturdy looking fella. Wicked hand captain Vax Creel, sort of a pirate with a couple of different blades, one in either hand. Then Mina River Widow's Captain, another pirate but a female. I think I already have this one somewhere in my pirate collection, but I do have a growing collection of pirates. Hellrunners, Raza Twin Sight, sort of a druidic looking shaman with feathers and a bird or something in her hand. I'm kind of not thrilled with that one. Eric, Paladin Initiate, just stereotypical, just shoulder pads forever. This really interesting one that's gotta be this it's gotta be 32 mil scale or something. Reaper Khan, iconic River Widows. I think that's a duplicate of the character there, but it's a really nice larger size fig of some sort of female. Looks like she's carrying a cannon. I kid you not, a ship cannon on her back. Not a large one, but it's a freaking ship cannon. And then the necromancer is Ariello Andrino Bonehenge. So a Mexican necromancer. That's kind of cool. Probably paint him. Uh, uh, Probably paint him in red, white, and green, or is it orange, white, and green? Uh, just to be silly. Reaper miniatures, dude. All Reaper metal. Uh, but don't be sniping me out there, or scooping up my finds, because there's a crap ton of sellers out there. 10 blister packs, $30, metal minis. I mean, mind you, this one, Jonah Undead Hunter, you can't really see him, but he's freaking massive. This is like a chunky. The base is huge, but it's very much the character from Assassin's Creed. Sort of a crusader looking hooded undead hunter, and then uh, Dagoth the Defiler. Both the blister pack said $24.99 on the blister pack. And I'm like, two of those, I'd pay the $30 just for those two at 15 a pop would be a steal. But you're throwing in 8 other blister packs and one looks like a ReaperCon exclusive, $30. Yeah. If they had two of the same lot, I would have bought it just because I could have put it in the store later, and marked it up a little and still made a profit. But yeah, I'm just whenever I get the wild hair looking, I'll check out the lots and make sure there's at least something in it that I want. Those two chunky guys alone made it worthwhile. The previous pack was Halloween themed, a bunch of pumpkins and scarecrows and Halloween like familiars, little miniature like this little guy. He can't be but 15 mil tall. This little you know and that lot was again $30. It came with a troll and these brainiac looking dudes that I'm having some fun with, giving them some what do you call it, shunner lighting with the blue and pink. I'm using this neon pink for the first time. It looks much cooler in person. The camera's just not giving it the right look to it. But I got two of those, and in that lot, and then the other lot was actually only 7, but it was a bunch of more specific things. Like I needed a piece for my superhero character in OGGM's game. That's Mr. Mirage, and this female android. And this one was like this cinched it. Uh, this scarecrow, just fuck. Love this guy. He's going to be the leader of an entire army of pumpkin-headed things. Um, okay, thanks to Edgelord. And mind you, there's there's plenty to spare, and my tastes and everybody else's tastes are never going to be the same. So grab if you see it. Chances are I didn't, and if somebody buys it, um, no worries. Yes, I like the neon dark or the neon colors. I just went and bought like half a dozen Army Painter neons. They don't all say neon on it, but they've got they're the green cap technicals like Power Node Glow. It's a neon pink. I did get the neon yellow because because I'm always in the search for yellow and orange. I found some that I really really like, but do I have a great pumpkin? He could be the great pumpkin. I've got these two really big ass pumpkins. I'll show you a scale to Mr. Mirage. They're pretty fat ass pumpkins, you know. I mean, look at that. But I also got these three little bastards. This one looks more like a snowman, but he's two pumpkins and a witch hat. Uh, Two pumpkins and a pitchfork made out of branches, and then this weird ass thing is just the misfit toys of freaking pumpkin minions. So I've got a pretty good beginning of a pumpkin themed skirmish band, if you will. Well, that's a puff paint color. I'm guessing you're talking about the pink. Yeah, you know what? Um, every once in a while, it's the right color for some things. Yeah, great pumpkin, Charlie Brown, a monk version of Linus swinging a blanket. Nice. That's the one thing I miss about building armies is weird theme armies to fit my snark. Dude, I'm telling you, I am working on some war bands for this game called Gothic Horror, comma Vampire Wars. That has the stats for Sherlock Holmes and Watson, Van Helsing, Dracula, the Wolfman, Frankenstein and his monster, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and Deep Ones. Just a whole bunch of really cool uh, gothic horror stuff. Burnt orange and some creepy green. I'm going for actually more of a neon orange, and then I'll go over that with this orange wash. The Army Painter fucking finally, where is it? Come on, made an orange tone. You know how hard it is to find an orange tone or an orange wash that isn't India ink or something that's supposed to be yellow, like Zealot yellow. It's freaking orange with some yellow mixed in there that comes out in streaks, which is kind of fun. Send me a link and I will check it out. The vampire game. It's been out of print forever. If that's what you're talking about, I saw a video. Some guy. I'll see if I can find it on YouTube. You could probably search find the same thing. And it's just this little skirmish game that came out a while ago, many years ago by I want to say West Winds or something like that. Uh, but it's just yeah, it's gothic horror vampire wars, and there's a bunch of books for it, and they're not really labeled. You got it just I went and just grabbed every book I could find until I finally got the core rule book because there's a 2 pack of books that are just editions, and I'm like, it's really indie kind of thing, but so far I'm digging it with all the different ways you could play it in just a battle. You got Sherlock Holmes and a couple of Bobbies and Lestrade, is that was his name, going after Dracula, or Van Helsing fighting some werewolves, or whatever. There's no real rules to like make up your own people, but it's got enough stuff to just and of course you could have like your Dr. Frankenstein army up against your Dracula army, your gypsies against your creature from the Black Lagoon. There's all kinds of different ways, model point by model, until you get to the total you and your opponent agreed on. It just looks like a lot of fun. Look, I like generic skirmish game rules like fantasy banners, etc. Uh, sorry, baking. I do like Zappa, but mostly his instrumentals. Son of Mr. Green Jeans. Okay, that's awesome. What's this game called again? Got to look it up. Yeah, it's you will absolutely love it. The only thing that really struck me as odd um, about it was the movement rates are. You know how like most skirmish games, it's like 4, 5, 6 inches. This is like a D plus like 12 and 16 sometimes. You got your guys running across the freaking battlefield like they own it. I'm just like, it's going to be a big table, or people are just going to be, bipping around. And there's a lot of a lot of choices, and it just to have something that's not, oh, what the hell, that's not too serious and too complicated, but I'm digging it. And so I started buying all kinds of vampires and London socialites, and I got the Sherlock Holmes and Watson from Reaper. I got the two metal minis of those guys for less than $10, and each Sherlock Holmes and Watson each have four hands to choose from. So like, there's one hand that's holding a pipe. I'm like, yeah, Sherlock Holmes is not going to be sitting there smoking a pipe in the middle of this thing. But there is a lantern, and Watson's got a valise or a pistol, or they've got choices for their hands, so you can kind of you probably could have mixed and matched them as well. And now that I think about it, I could have given him the valise and the lantern, but I gave the little suitcase briefcase thing to Dr. Watson, so I could also use them for other things. I'm guessing you mean India Ink plus Matte Primer and Flow Improver on an orange. Is that right, James? Um, I'm actually pretty happy with the orange because there's also a rust tone ink and a sepia that's new, rust tone, so I can get that darker orange. But these are all recent additions to the Army Painter line of washes. I've got a whole rack just of Army Painter washes, and a duplicate rack of extras, so that when I run out, I'm not scrambling. Oh no, got to make an order. Because anytime I run out of like one color, I do one of two things. I go make an order and add a bunch of crap to it, right? Oftentimes things I already have, I just didn't look hard enough to find them. Or I just buy the one bottle of ink and it costs me like $12 because of shipping. Not from Novish Bazaar, but sometimes they don't have that one color. So I've been making a small list of about a half a dozen bottles that I'm going to order next month. Hopefully, that's just a couple of days away. So, but it's all good. Oop. I'm going to sell a big chunk of my underutilized collection and buy more 10s and 15s. Wardheimen 15 would be fun. Gotcha. Lestrade is a great character. He plays it straight. Holmes runs rings around him. He is a fun character. I really like the actor who played him in the old Basil Rathbone. I haven't watched any of the new ones. Uh, Gothic Horror Vampire Wars review says the rules are clunky. I'm not done reading them. They probably are. I mean, because they're trying to do the same thing every other game did, but with their own rules, so they don't get too shit upon for making their own rules. But the point of the matter really is that August is coming. After August is September. So September, October, November. I got 3 whole months. I get to run roughshod over the whole Gothic horror theme for here on the Tube of Views and what I'm doing at home, and getting in the mood and painting. I've got a bunch of terrain to build. I've got minis to paint. I've got the Dracula's carriage. Oh my god, what a steal! Hold on, guys. I gotta show this off one more freaking time. You can't really see because there's no image, but there's the box, and you can see all metal, four-wheeled carriage. I think 4 horses, some sort of coach driver, etc. All in glorious Gothic fashion with no instructions. I got this. It's 30 metal pieces to put this bad boy together, so I'm gonna have to figure it out on my own or look for some instructions. I got this on eBay from Miniature Market, no less. $20. I'm like, I couldn't click buy it now fast enough. Uh, Sherlock Holmes has a glass pipe. No. But seriously, man, this is. I also got to get like a really, really quality base to mount this on. And then, I was thinking, I got to put at least like one pumpkin along the road that it's driving down. Just one. I got tufts and skulls and thing. I might make a little bit of fencing, you know, but $20, guys. I mean, holy crap. When this was brand new, It was probably 35. This is Gothic. This is for Vampire Wars West Winds medals. They're out of the UK. So copyright 2006. So it's a 20-year-old game. But I mean, come on, $20, and I can use it for a whole bunch of things. As a matter of fact, uh, I believe it was last year, uh, minus a month or two, when I was playing my AD&D game with the Sunday guys. They ran into three carriages full of undead that were storming the church. Um, and it was a freaking blast. I could see making a skirmish game on that like Mordheim. Absolutely. In 2026, Sherlock Holmes has a glass pipe. Watson is an AI hologram of the Microsoft paperclip. Yes, orange. I reorganized my paints into parts bins, primary and secondary washes and effects, metallics, and one for browns, grays, and ivories. Um, yeah, like I was telling you the other day, I have mine organized by color, by company, and washes in one area, metallics. But I go by company because that way I can tell what I'm using the most of. And for the most part, it's Army Painter. I mean, hands down, Army Painter. I will like. I'm trying to use up my Reaper paint collection and just run them out because um, it's not the paint. The paint is awesome. It's the labels. The labels are printed in this black and white format that, let's see if I can find one to give you an example of just the ink just rubs off or disappears. I had to write with a pen what this color was before I would completely lose sight of what it was. The labels are just awful. I mean, I know you're trying to save a buck here, but you gotta I gotta know what it is. Thankfully Army Painter has the black, the red, the white, the green, and now the silver, and God knows what the other ones are. Gold. Gold for, is this airbrush? Yeah, the airbrush paints are gold. Figures, bastards. But I find myself going to uh, Army Painter first, Vallejo just for the drudge work. The blacks, the whites, the browns, and the grays. A lot of terrain or just rank and file bland colors. They do have some great ones. They're metallic blue and they're silver and ivory. I use those like crazy, but they do a lot of the heavy lifting or the grunt work when it comes to painting. The word is there's a new paint line coming soon. I'm not even a bit surprised. Hey, it's not yet August yet. Damn it! I know. Uh, but I'm preparing. I'm getting ready for that, and I'm going to have an entire freaking table full. I mean, my dinner table full of separate armies and terrain, and uh, even if I have to just say, all right, leave me alone. Nobody's using the dinner table for a week, and play some freaking games just by myself and test out the rules and see how that goes, because that's how I got Jackie into playing Shadows of Brimstone. He would come down, he'd see me playing something. He's like, "What are you doing?" "I'm playing a game." "Can I play?" "Well, of course you can. Belly up to the bar, kiddo." And he'll see it and be like, "Oh, yeah, I can I be Dr. Frankenstein and the monster? Yeah, sure you can, sport." Oh, and my Blue Oyster Cult army. I've got now three, four, five or six whole pieces for my Blue Oyster Cult army, but I've got some Creature from the Black Lagoon type stuff coming, and some deep ones, because believe it or not, in this song from 1972, Blue Oyster Cult wrote a song about the Blue Oyster Cult summoning the deep ones. Yeah, it's the only song that actually says Blue Oyster Cult in the lyrics, and that's kind of, when D.N. James goes on and on about his Cthulhu and his Hyperborea. I'm like, dude, you got to go deep dive the original White albums from Blue Oyster Cult. There's so much freaking Cthulhu shit just squirming around in there. I'm like, how are you not like their biggest fan? Just saying. Halloween is like 6 months away. No, August, September, October. It's like 3 months away. You're like doubling the time. Oh, I forgot. I've also got this scarecrow I just saw from the Wizard of Oz Reaper collection. Now this is a Reaper Bones white. I know it's gray. It's one of the Bones black or whatever. But he's kind of cool in that scythe he's carrying. You can't really see, but uh, over here you can see the receiver of like a Winchester lever action rifle. So his scythe also doubles, and I guess that's kind of cool because you could stick the scythe into the ground and like do some hunting. But that's kind of badass for the steampunk uh, Wizard of Oz reimagining they did, where he's carrying a freaking rifle. Cowardly Lion over here, he's got some sort of blaster pistol, and I'm going to get so much use out of these minis. I need a Lion Man. Here you go. Not so cowardly though. Tin Man, meet Terminator. Flying monkeys. Oh, here, have some plate armor. Dorothy, I'm going to give you a Sig Sauer there. Is that okay? Here you go. You and Toto just, sit back, take some pot shots. It'll all be good. Wicked Witch is now wicked in completely different ways. Bow, bow, bow. For those of you into the greenskins, sorry, I should use the other hand when I do that. To Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, and mind you, most of the stuff I get, at a discount, a deal somehow. The Wizard of Oz minis, actually, I got those from Tenkar. He sent me his entire Reaper White Bones Kickstarter because he realized he was never going to paint even one of them. And he sent me the whole Kickstarter. And there was some stuff in there, like the Wizard of Oz set, that had been sitting in my collection for like 4 or 5 years now. I mean, I met him a long time ago, and it's like, oh, you're a painter? Here, let me send you something. I mean, he didn't know me from Adam. I mean, literally, we had 250 subscribers, maybe. And he's like, here, let me send you this. I'm like, free minis? Yeah, here's my address, my social security number. What do you want? Um, and it was hundreds of minis, and I have since given all of them away except a few, including the Reaper Bones Black that were in that set. And I finally just got around to painting them. I was eyeballing Fat Dragon's series of printable stuff: Battlefront, Valkyrie, World War Tesla, Crown, and Rebel with Battle Hulks coming up this summer. That's pretty cool, Bubba. Everything there is like all the buzzwords I want to hear. You know, absolutely. I saw Valkyrie, and I thought back to the Valkyries from Doom Trooper. Uh, just fucking fun shit. Uh, what's up, Steven? Uh, uh, Gives me an excuse to buy a FDM printer. Uh, Dude, uh, here's the thing. With an FDM printer, if you do it right, you can make shit for the wife, the grandkids, all kinds of stuff, so that your, occasional interests, when they pop up, it's no big deal. You find a use, like, I'm not saying like make knives, forks, and plates and shit like that, but there's some stuff I'm sure you can make with an FDM printer that's like safe, not like toxic, that, would make picture frames maybe, or things like that. Just, hey, I was thinking of you and I made this, uh, thing. Here you go. What you made it? Yeah, the 3D printer just printed it up. Like, no big deal. Push a couple buttons and set it and forget it and come back and there you go. Look at it, Bamboo Labs. Oh, Bamboo Labs. Yeah, yeah. I heard they're actually pretty good. What's up, guys? I like Army Painter and AK Interactive. Former for Fantasy Colors, later for World Colors. Um, Dude, I've got on this side of the table alone, I got like 500 bottles of paint. Over there, I've got another 250, mostly because it's craft paint and bigger stuff. Out in the garage, I got another box of probably all dried up craft paints, but I've never met a bottle of craft paint I couldn't bring back to life with some water and a toothpick. AK are like Vallejo when they still gave a damn. They took Vallejo paints out of my Hobby Lobby. Kind of miss it. They still have some of the sets, but uh, I really have nothing bad to say about Vallejo. Not like Army Painter original toothpaste, but they've gotten better and their speed paints. Just I love them. There's a out of the 90 bottle set, there's still 50 bottles I have yet to use, even try those colors. Like, huh. So it's kind of fun. I hate regular Army Painter paints. Yeah, they were. Uh, yeah. Well, their regular paints are actually getting better. And if you don't like those, you can go with the speed paint or the airbrush paint. The airbrush paints are a lot thinner. They're meant to go through an airbrush and not clog the shit out of it. But with the old, like the original formula, the metallics, I've had these for like 5 years, and yeah, they're thick and pasty as hell. But you know what I do? I squeeze out a little on my palette, which is something like this. These poppers, these are great. Uh, and I'll squeeze like a little drop or two. I'll add some water, some flow improver, and really water it up, right? Get it really watery, and then use it, and then put as much of that back into the bottle as I can. And that extra water and the either airbrush thinner or flow improver that I mixed in there also gets mixed into the batch, and uh, eventually, it keeps it, viable. And I found that the old Army Painter paints like that, it was like getting 2 or 3 bottles of regular paint because it was so thick, and then I could thin it out and dilute it to where I could, make those thin coats and then pour it back. It was like I was using nothing out of the bottle. Some of those bottles are going to last me my entire life. The reformulated ones are much improved, especially in terms of coverage. Yeah, part of the paints that's going back so far, dude. Moorcock too. I'm not sure what you're referencing. Of course, you like BOC. I knew the reason I liked you. Secret Treaties is a great Secret Treaties is where we got astronomy. The Subhuman is the song that uses the words Blue Oyster Cult. Um, on Your Feet, on Your Knees has a great hippie freaking. You could just freaking smell the acid in the air on that live version. It just Eric Bloom, just what a singer. People, don't realize the depths that man could go back in the day. Hawkwind, that's another one of those bands that was brave enough to sing about Roger Zelazny and Michael Moorcock and Elric, and just all kinds of great stories. Instead of check out my car, check out my bling kind of modern freaking retardation that has gotten into the music industry. That is funny, dude. I absolutely love that bit on Family Guy. Do Blue Oyster help the priests of the cult enter a heightened state the way Blue Lotus would for the ancient Egyptians? Why not? I always thought that the Blue Oyster was actually a reference to a UFO. Be honest. Whenever I first got into it, I was big into Von Daniken and all that stuff, and I'm like, yeah, they saw a blue oyster because they sometimes talk about it being in the sky, and I'm like, freaking blue oyster, yeah, it's a flying freaking saucer. But it goes back to not just Egypt, but the Aztecs. One of their Imaginos album talks about getting this emerald mirror from South America, and it's just a lot of great. There's actually this huge rock opera that started in the first album and went all the way to the album Imaginos, where they finally got to do their rock opera. It was supposed to be longer. They didn't. The studio's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Just make some songs." And then the drummer, who was a really good friend of Sandy Perlman, the writer producer of all that stuff that kind of almost created them like the Monkees, to tell his rock opera. Uh, when Sandy Perlman died, Al Bouchard and his brother, they left the band and went on to kind of finish that rock opera, and they put out 3 albums, several actually, but they finally finished that story. Tin Golem, sure, why not? Eric is a great guy. I've been watching his. I think that's why I first started watching his Gamers Health on Saturday, and like I was like, me and 3 other people were the only ones watching on Saturday, and I could see what he was doing. He was trying to help out his bros because too many of them are dropping like flies, and you know I was there back then, and I still watch it when I get a chance. Not always, because sometimes it's Saturday, um, but he's definitely on my bucket list. As a matter of fact, shh, don't tell anybody. But where are they? Where are they? Where are they? I have 2 minis that I found. One of Eric, one of Rach, and they were not 3D printed, and they were just something I happened upon, and I painted them up, and I'm gonna mail them to them because uh, you never know what could happen. But I was trying to work up like this really nice base to put them on, but I just haven't been able to find. I think I'm gonna have to go through some of my my scattered terrain and like build like a proper vignette or diorama for them, um, just so that they can go, hey, because we Tent Cars Tavern and the Shadow and Sun Mountains, now we're a lot closer. We're on the old Arduin map, just a few score hexes away from one another. All disposable income is flowing to grandkids at the moment. I hope everything is well with that, Bubba. Off grid, I could have swore first glance I'm buying a brothel inkjet printer. I'm a what? No, it's brother. Okay, I've had enough of shipping custom fees. That's why I only buy from the U.S. for the most part, and I look for the deals, man. I know what things cost. I know what they're worth, and if I'm getting it at like half off and shit, I'm gonna take it because the sad part about my spending habits is that when September 15th rolls around, everything goes up. Remember this, guys. Write this down. If you shop eBay, if you sell or buy, September 15th through February 15th is the time to sell. February 16th through September 14th is the time to buy. During the summer and the spring, people are dumping their excess stuff to make money for summer vacation, college, the holidays. As soon as September 15th comes around, people are putting stuff up to sell, and they're asking, top dollar because, if you don't try, don't you don't make any money. And believe it or not, I've got stuff on my eBay store that have been priced, what I thought was crazy prices a couple of years ago, and now they're the cheapest on the market or on eBay. And I'm like, I need to go back in there and fix that. You only use Vallejo. FDM isn't toxic. It's just like trimmer string. Now the resin, that one is toxic. Yeah, but I mean, do you really want to make a cup out of FDM and drink out of it? Maybe not. You might make like a toothpaste, rinse cup, but still a little, leery of that. I like the old Viejo, but the new ones are very air bubbly. Slap chop, I do a bit of that, but that's just like the first couple of steps is the slap chop, and then I do dry brushing and edge highlighting and all that. My paint My paints haven't been touched in a couple of years, but I do have mixing balls in every dropper and run them on an impulse mixer. I'm hoping to have the free time to start painting again this winter. Well, while it's hot as hell, I would take those bottles and add a couple of drops of either flow improver or airbrush thinner, uh, and test them out. And you just keep shaking them, keeping them liquid, and you can't go wrong. And if for some reason they do dry up, add some water. Get yourself something like one of these, right? It's a crochet needle, I think. And I've had these two in my collection for on my work table for decades. And you can stick it in the mouth of these bottles, and you get some water in there, and just start stabbing holes into the dried paint. And eventually, that water will get into those holes, and it'll start mushing it up and making it squishy again. And I kid you not, this little bottle of paint right here, it's solid again. I've done that to it 3 times in 10 years, and every time I can turn it back into paint. And because you can tell it's a glow in the dark paint by the yellowish color right here, but it glows blue. And, that's kind of a rarity. I mean, you can go look, but the average glow in the dark paint, even though it looks pink or orange or whatever, it glows green. And that's cool for some stuff. But when I go to the effort to paint like a whole bunch of things in various colors, I would really love it if they glowed in those same colors, right? Um, by the way, I'm making a dry brush mat like yours later. That was a great idea. Oh, this thing. Hold on, I'll show people. You just take one of those cheap 99-cent store cutting mats with the grid on it, and then I just glued a bunch of crap. This is literally dirt, not dirt, but sand and rubble and gravel. Uh, this over here, this over here is. I saw a stick man in a sprue. It's like, hey, that looks like a stick man. I'm saving it. I don't know what for. And then these right here, I made these, and I've never seen anybody do this. But I wipe down, 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 down as I'm wiping off the paint, and as I do it, I get a gradient scale, and I can see at what point it's like, is that too much? Oop. So I can start up here, and it's thick paint, and then here, and it slowly goes down until I get to here or whatever, and I can go, just right, that's enough paint. Over here, I put the Shadow and Sun logo, and then over here, I put a couple of bottle caps to use as palettes, because when I'm dry brushing, I tend to do like a lot of it. The other thing is, when I dry brush, the first step, like say I'm dry brushing and I'm using this palette, I wipe off as much paint as I can back into the cup. And believe it or not, we used to use the Pringles lids, and we'd put them at an angle so that everything we wiped off would pool at an angle. I should have made these at an angle. That was the only mistake I made, putting like a little wedge so that the wet paint that I'm wiping off would pool back into the palette at an area where I could then keep using it, so I wouldn't waste any paint. Because like this method with the napkins and stuff, and if you're going to use napkins, brown napkins, brown napkins. So instead of using white napkins, you can literally see how much you're wiping off. But this is like the final step. I'll do a little, dabbing here to see just exactly how much paint is coming off when I'm dry brushing, because this method right here, just doing this, wastes napkins, which is probably not good for the environment. But more importantly, it wastes a lot of paint. If you think about how much paint you wipe off and just throw away, 10 times more than you're actually putting on the brush. I mean, on the miniature. To me, that's just kind of dumb, right? But that's just the way it's been done. Artists, have always been known to, you know, squirt a bunch of paint on their palette, and then if you ever see their palettes, they're just thick and caked with wasted paint. I'm, you know, not so loosey goosey with my paint. I mean, I pay good money for it, and sometimes I gotta wait, a week or 10 days to get that color back, and sometimes that's enough to just kill the vibe or the enthusiasm you had on painting this army or that thing, and then the paint comes and you're like, oh, well, since then I already got enthused about this other thing, and now I'm painting this. I can wait until I get to it. I got 12 BT vehicles and a locust to paint just sitting over there on my dark or your desk. Um, Hawkwind were great. Silver Machine, yeah, I know that song very well. OGG, you just need to paint during our games like I do. Yeah, I was doing a little bit of painting, kind of not just like not really intricate, detailed stuff. Just sort of like I don't even remember what I was painting. Just little things just to keep my hands busy. That was a fun game last night, dude. That was a fun game. I just saying that was Omen was really good about losing his character. I mean, freaking 10th or 11th level Wujin. Damn, that's not something you're gonna get to run every day. That's like it's something you don't see every day. I mean, how many people really ran those guys? Those guys were a lot of fun, very powerful, but very niche. And he just took that plasma ball to the chest for 70 points of damage, and poof. And yeah, he had plenty of ways to escape. He just, you know, but that's okay. I think his new character is kind of like OG's, where it's actually a character more suited to what he wants to do and play. So I'm, you know, but Armstrong, man, tough break, huh? Watching Mama die right before she tries to kill you. It's fucking awesome. It's so fucking awesome. Because I mean, you guys are in the big leagues now, man. 13th level characters, uh, better bring your A game. Just saying. Hawkwind is honestly my favorite group of all time, and Dave Brock still makes interesting music 50 years later. Even the solo projects from former members is unbelievable. Um, yeah, some of it was a little too psychedelic for me. I'm not really a big Pink Floyd, Crimson, King Crimson, that kind of stuff. With Bluish for Cult, they were more honestly just a traditional kind of hard rock band with really really interesting lyrics. Point two, not sure what that means. OFC in smaller scales, the terrain becomes even more important. So maybe I will get in a shut up with that. We still gotta do that 3 mil or whatever EDC thing. I really love that idea, especially with Jackie doing all the National Guard stuff. Dude, UFO. That's a band I've recently been getting really really into. Uh, Shoots like my favorite song of theirs, but love that album cover because me and some other people had this ongoing argument. It's like that's a chick, and they're like, no, that's a chick, and I'm like, it turns out they were both chicks, which is I was right. I just wasn't paying much attention to the other one because it looked like a dude. I'm just saying. But whatever. Imagine with my preference for epic scale, layer lines is not an issue. Uh, for me, it kind of is. Like I got this figure recently, and it's like a larger figure of Deja Thoris, and it's nothing but layer lines. I can see them from here. I was so pissed. I'm like, I paid like $15 for it, but like I really wanted to paint that and practice and start trying to get better with my flesh tones because that's all there is. And it's just I would literally have to spend about 30 days sanding and filing off those layer lines. I shouldn't have to. I really shouldn't have to. Um, LOL at POC. I'm diagnosed ADD not by Gygax, by my childhood uh, pediatrician. I would lose track of what's happening when my focus shifts. Uh, yeah, I'm I don't know. I do that, but I chalk it up to all the drugs I did in the '60s. Um, I got to hang out with Eric in North Texas, and then my wife and I got to hang out with Eric and Rach both at CNY. Nice, nice. If I go to CNY, it will be solo and That's I really don't even plan on playing any games. The only game I would play in would be the Arduin game. That's it. Everything else, I'm just there to talk, meet people, shake hands, and empty out the dealer's room. You will not get the detail of a resin printer, but if you're making an army and use the Fat Dragon settings, they are not bad in my opinion. They do look a little chunky, kind of like all of us. Probably not a huge deal at 15 millimeter. The brothel inkjet. Where can I find one of those? Really prints Scarlet really well. Okay. I like minis to be a bit cute. Miss me that with the over detailed Art Gothic GW stuff. I'm telling you, go look at Heritage. Heritage Dungeon Dwellers will freaking will fit that to a T. I'm getting that Cos book next time I run into Dave and George. This is all you're doing, Shadow. Dude, it's worth it. Because it's all system agnostic. It's just the history, culture, lore, geography of the world. I like Tankar. Glad he does Gamers Health. Too many need it. Decades ago, I watched some better shows on health and take some good supplements. Lucky those help me. I don't trust any doctors. I haven't been to a doctor in over 10 years, and unless I'm kicking and screaming or bleeding or got a broken bone, I will never see the inside of a medical facility ever again. I agree. We are responsible for asking our own health and not trust Dr. Pill Pusher. Great step. Uh, I walk miles, drink gallons of water, eat veggies, and always cook at home. But sugar is my undoing. That and shooting heroin into my eyeball. I would definitely recommend getting off the sugar. Our healthcare system is broken. Doctors and PAs are overwhelmed. Yeah, well, not just that. They're corrupt as all get out. Fuck them. What they did during the thing, I will never forgive them. A generation is going to have to come and go before I will. We could send Shadow's dry brush palette into space as it explains man's story in primitive visual language. I was just watching. I was just watching the video on the data stream we sent out to a place that won't get it for like 250,000 years. What a colossal, absolute waste of freaking money and time. Earth will be gone when anybody receives that message. Third rock from the sun. Yeah, I see that now. Um, that's funny. Uh, Man, sun, boobs, apple pie. Third rock from the sun. Absolutely, guys. Uh, Freaking hippie. Hey, man. You know, if I were to cut these luscious locks, I just look like frickin' Shawner, okay? And people would start accusing me of being related to him, like a blood relation or the next incarnation of the old fart. And I've had long hair most of my life, off and on. I've got pictures in kindergarten where it was pretty freaking long, uh, and you know it's just you know I couldn't picture me any other way. Although when the mood did hit me, I could definitely rock that spiky short Billy Idol kind of haircut. Uh, Love their album covers. Got a bunch on vinyl. What's up, nerdy? How you doing, man? And Joseph, hey, how you doing? Layer lines? Are you angling the print? I don't know what that means, but I think that means like with the 3D printer. I had bad layer lines until I figured out angling and also found the aftermarket resin heater was causing a pulse in the LED. Once I locked in layering and turned off the heater, no more lines. Hey, that sounds like great advice, Joseph. You want, I can pop the link in here and you can come on in and hang out. Or if you're busy or you're just chilling and doing other stuff, I totally get it. I was just talking about some great Reaper finds that I picked up via eBay. These two giant, massive, chunky Dagoff the Defiler and Jonah, some sort of undead hunter. Uh, Super freaking cheap. Those two blister packs plus 8 other blister packs, $30. Just insane. And luscious locks. I don't know what else to what alliteration goes with hair. Um, you're available for a bit. All right, I'll toss in the link there, buddy. It's always cool to speak with new friends. And there we go. Anybody else want to come in? Uh, just make sure I can see you in the green room, and I know it's you, and it's not pointed at your crotch. Just saying. Did I tell you the story about that, Joseph? How that happened? Yeah, people still joke about it, but um, RPG Grandma and Nerds Nerd are still traumatized. Nerds probably not traumatized, but Grandma is still traumatized. Joseph, good to see you again. How you doing, man? Can't hear you. Bum, 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 bum. But yeah, I'm going to have to clear some of this stuff off my desk by end of August. Sorry, Joe. Still can't hear you. Can you hear us? Okay. Maybe check your settings on Restream. Cause you're good on my end. It says you should be able to chat and do all the things. Um, for those of you who don't know, Joseph is the writer of Dungeon Dwellers. Yeah, he'll be back when he figures that out. I just started reading the Monster book, and I'm digging it. His game is it's a callback to the original Dungeon Dwellers miniature line from Heritage Minis, and going through the book, I last week I really was okay. We got
How about
something.
now?
Okay, you are live with us.
Hi,
How,
guys. Nice to see you again. It's
you too,
always a
man.
pleasure.
How's your weekend?
Brief.
I've never heard it put that way, but that
Uh,
says so much with 4 little letters, right?
yeah.
Uh,
I spent Friday helping I've been helping out dig a shut-in hoarder who happens to be a gamer out of her horrible situation for the last 10 weeks. And so I spent all of Friday up to here in a very gross situation.
I am
So
so sorry to hear that
yeah,
because
it's
of
not fun.
the human situation. Um,
Well, she's safe. She's safe. That's the important thing. We have a plan,
yeah, yeah.
but
All
it's
the other
coming
stuff,
together. Yeah.
as much of a material girl as I am, all that other stuff is insignificant in the long run, but the archaeologist and the hoarder and myself was like, oh man, I don't even want to know. I don't want to know how
Well,
many copies of this and that have been just
she
neglected to death.
she's been a fixture in the gaming biz, like gaming adjacent, for a really long time, and so she has a what I would refer to as a respectable game library. So the goal is to preserve her books and her game library, and everything else is basically being thrown in the dumpsters. It's really a shame, but it's just you're 71 years old and have zero kidney function, and you're $80,000 in debt. You know,
Uh,
it's a bad scene,
I'm
but
assuming she has other family.
I put her in touch with her. I am the nexus for basically keeping her off the streets. So I put her in touch with her brother, who is unhappy to yet again step in and save his baby sister. Um,
That's your
so
job,
it
man. Suck it up.
Yeah, well, I agree with you to a point, but you make some really poor choices on top of really poor choices, and there's only so many times you can save somebody. So
I
it's just not a
understand.
great scene. It's not a great
Yeah,
scene.
I understand. I have a brother who's doing 400 years. I'll never see him, and I haven't seen him in most 40 years, and I nothing I can do. But you know, he made some bad choices, like you said, and my good friend James says, "Hey Joe, big Reaper fan, and boy is he! He's replacing most of his Hero Quest minis with Reapers. I can see myself becoming a game hoarder. Becoming? What are you talking about? I'm legendary. Uh, it's
Yeah.
funny.
Uh, Last time I
My,
checked, my game collection, my RPG collection alone weighed like a metric ton. We moved it cross country twice. It's 47 banker boxes,
uh,
just books.
yeah, my comic book collection alone weighed about that because I moved from Virginia back to California, and I shipped them, and uh, that was just my comic book collection because at the time I had almost no game collection, and now I've got uh, about 40 or 50 of those big plastic totes full of stuff because I'm not doing cardboard. I'm over that, and I went with the boxes alone cost me like $8. The big plastic tubs, but they're more resilient to water and
Yep.
moisture and dust. And where I live, it's so hot that the cardboard literally just like every little bit of moisture that actually helps keep the box somewhat intact. Cardboard actually has some moisture in it. Not here. Not here. I mean, I could look at the box and punch a hole through it with my eye beams.
Yeah.
It's so fragile. And the same with the sun. If I leave the plastic outside, um, 30 days and you can punch through that plastic because it comes
Oh yeah. It
brittle.
disintegrates. Even in Michigan, it disintegrates fast. It
Yeah, I
30
found
days is about right. Yeah.
the clear plastic is the worst.
Yep.
The black plastic is much better. And mind you, I do a lot of crafting, so I've got at least 4 bins that if somebody opened it up, it's going to be like that scene from the Venture Brothers when they open the treasure chest and there's googly eyes and ping pong balls and pipe cleaners and craft sticks. But to me, that's treasure. I mean, I got
Sure.
plans for each and every one of those stupid little things. I'm going to make at least 4 more beholders. Have you ever seen Wylock's beholder video? Wylock's Armory? You ever watch his channel? He takes a ping pong ball and some googly eyes and makes the best beholders I've ever seen.
Nice.
Hot glue gun, toothpicks, some wire, some googly eyes or some eye beads. Freaking amazing! I got to find mine just to show it off. Jackie and I built some of those way back in the beginning,
Very cool.
but
So, tell you what I'm working on. I figure I'll do a little self promotion here. Why not?
feel
Since we've got
free.
some
I love to
fans.
hear it.
I'm currently wrapping up the last few monsters in an addendum, a 1.5 to our Denizens book. So I'm
Okay.
wrapping up. I'm literally looking at the Were Rat right now. So, and we've got a couple more after that, and then this project is out the door. And then I'll be working on Caverns of Doom for the rest of the month, probably the month
Dude,
after
I
that.
just the name that the Crypt of the Sorcerer and Caverns of Doom, man, they bring back so many visceral memories of my earliest day in this hobby. Those box sets, those paint and play sets. I still like
Have you
if
did
the
you
house was on.
have you picked up the adventure anthology, because that actually has Bobby Jackson's Crypt of the Sorcerer adventure in it?
Oh
He
yeah, yeah,
used the
yeah.
original map. I believe he used the original map. I think, um, but yeah, it's in there. And
I got it.
Caverns of Doom is just too big. It's not
Yeah.
just a little dungeon.
The
It's
2-page spread.
well, actually no. It's gonna be a mega dungeon because it covers. It's a lot like Secret of Bone Hill and Jocanth and stuff, in the fact that it covers all the area around it. So there's lots to do. So it's not just a dungeon; it's all the stuff around it, including a
kind of like
refuge that you
Teagle
can
Manor
retreat
as
to.
well.
Yeah, yeah, to some extent. But Teagle Manor didn't really go into detail around the stuff around it, I don't think.
And a
I haven't
little
cracked
there's a
mine open recently.
temple. And, yeah,
A little
there's
bit.
a little, yeah.
But this
That's the
has
one I
this
love
has like
first.
a good 4 to 6 pages of additional stuff just around the dungeon that includes the refuge, which is a place to retreat to to sell your loot and heal up and get a cleric to heal you, or
Mhm.
remove your latest curse. But then it goes into Hammerfall Keep, which is like a capstone that sits on top of
Mhm.
one of the 6 or 7 entrances to the Caverns of Doom. And then the Caverns of Doom are like officially 13 levels, but there's also side levels, and it's a lot like Undermountain in the fact that you're going to be able to like add your own stuff to it. And,
Please, 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 please tell me that it's not going to be like Tanasborg, where you've got to go up, over, and then down to get over here.
I've only done the preliminary design work on the upper halls, which includes Hammerfall Keep, the actual real dungeon under the castle,
Mhm.
the cisterns, the sewers, and the stores. I have not done any of the design work on levels 1 through 3, which will be part of the upper halls source book, and I believe it'll be 128 pages full color. Um,
Well,
that's
I
the
was
plan, anyways.
like I said, yeah. Please don't do that if you can avoid it. It was annoying trying to read that book and playing it. I can't imagine the players would these days just not have the conceptual understanding of how to tape pieces of graph paper as a long line to show that you got to go up, you got to go down to go up, like a roller
Are you
coaster.
familiar with Dyson logos?
No.
Dyson does amazing isometric and also
Mm,
multi-layered maps. And one of the hallmarks is he's an amazing cartographer and a great designer. And one of his hallmarks is the up to go down, where he'll have like a corridor that goes underneath another section of corridor or some rooms, and his look great, but making players map that is like a pain in the ass.
it really is, and not all of us, are in our teens and 20s and 30s anymore. We'd like to live long enough to see the end of said dungeon and not die at the table trying to freaking graph it out. You brought up the monsters book. I forget the exact title.
Denizens of the Dungeon, Volume 1.
You, wasn't that also the name of a line of miniatures by Heritage?
Uh, it
Six.
might. I'm pretty sure it was because that's by design. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it was.
Yeah, yeah. Because I have all but one of those boxes original. I also have the Heritage, like the cleric box, the magic user box, the fighter, etc. Those little boxes with like 10 plastic minis and a little mini game. The one I'm looking for is like $200. I'm like,
Uh,
eBay. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I got each of the ones I got on eBay for like 15. I'm not paying that price. But I started reading the monster book, and of course, I had to jump right ahead to the shadow, obviously. And dude,
that's one
you
of my
just
favorite entries. It really is. Um,
I can't
yeah,
imagine
I'm
why.
glad you like it.
Holy shit! I cannot wait. Because even if I don't use the other stuff, um, what most of us, maybe don't realize is when we're reading all these game books and these rules and stuff, most of what's sticking is the monsters. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? We most of us have our built-in sort of rules that we're comfortable with, and we can run blindfolded. But the monsters, that's like the new stuff. You know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to give anything away because I know at least one, if not two, of my players are hanging out right now, listening, lurking, waiting for me to divulge some secrets. Oh my goodness gracious! Did you really like? I mean, they used to be just like a two-hit die, weenie monster. Oh, drain some strength. Yeah, no, 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 no. They deserve so much more. I find that any monster that feeds on the player characters deserves so much more. They're feeding because they're hungry. When I know when I'm hungry and I need a Snickers bar, I am not at 100%. But you get me that 6-course meal like we had yesterday, ribs and potatoes and apples and beans and ooh, afterwards, ah man, I don't know if my players noticed, but Sunday I was running on a very happy full belly. So I was like, okay, and I totally ad libbed that game. I had no idea what the players were going to do because they just ran screaming tails between their legs from the previous adventure. They lost a player character, a 10th, 12th level Wujin, and a high level NPC got just smoked. I think the Wujin went like negative, probably like negative 35 points from a blast. So there was nothing but like little bits of meat on the walls left of
He
him.
was atomized.
And so they ran home, and I had no idea what they were going to do. Just like, what do you guys want to do? And I started riffing off the information that was new because of what happened, and uh, I it was fun, and definitely
One.
feed your DMs
I'm
or
glad you like the shadow because
oh
it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite low level undeads. But that's why we don't do. When we were looking at energy drain, there was a lot of questions. And my favorite version of it is the one that went in the book, and that is the 3 point X version, where you get a saving throw 24 hours later, but until then you carry a significant penalty, and if you ever get reduced to 0 or fewer levels, you're killed, and then
one of them.
presumably will come back as another kind of as an undead. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was we talked about it, and I did provide options to that stuff in the Game Master's Vault. So if you want a
Mm-hmm.
softball approach, I give you the option
Mm-hmm.
of how to handle energy drain and things like that. Um,
I'm,
but
I'm old school,
I
but
like the scary version. So
yeah, because you need them because every argument I've heard comes from someone who's lost levels and it sucks. There's other than death, there's almost nothing that hurts more than lost levels.
yep.
Losing hit points, losing magic items, you weren't born with them anyways, but you earned those levels. I mean, you earned them. And losing them, oh, that hurts down in the cockles. But
But there's so many ways to enhance your survivability. We have an herb that will take one or more levels of energy drain. It's called the Holy Verbena. It's available in the Dreadmere stuff, which isn't out yet, but it'll be in there. But
mhm,
there was a trinket that's in the Game Master's Vault that will eat a level of energy drain. Restoration spell. I don't know why people whine about it, but when you start fighting creatures that have energy drain, you have the restoration spell. So you can also get potions of it, scrolls of it. You can get a wand of it. There's a lot of options available to you. How about dodging? How about going aggressive defense and +4 to your defense? There's a lot of ways to avoid this situation. And if you get if you walk by a wall and a wraith reaches out and hits you for 1 or 2 energy levels, yeah, it sucks, but it's an adventure. It's not peril mitigation. So
mhm.
it's scary and it terrifies you. And to me, I think that's great. But there's a lot, and there's a number of ways to get them back. Like even if you do take the negative energy levels, you can actually get them back with a restoration spell.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it's doable. It's very doable.
Right, but it's just that initial gut reaction is so painful emotionally that why would you take that out? You know what I mean? Why would you?
Our our paladin encountered a door that was covered with a thin veneer of rust and ice. And as they approached, the door knocker talked. And it wasn't like a magic mouth, it was like a lesser construct, and it had some degree of intelligence. And it was like, you sure about that? You sure you want to reach for the door handle? What's behind this door is terrifying. It'll destroy your mind and flesh. And the paladin's like, I'm scared of nothing, and grabbed the door handle. And of course, there was a fairly powerful wraith, worked into the door. So blam, 2 negative energy levels. No save, no nothing, just bam. And so I'm like, I'll see you in 24 hours. And she was crying. She was just like, oh my God, imagine what would happen if I fail this. I'm like, yep, everyone else will be level 7. It'll be level 5.
Damn. There's only
Yep.
one thing I've come across in the old books, the old lore, the deep magic, as it were, that comes even close, and in a way, it might be worse. Do you remember? My players remember Pepperidge Farms remembers the Varguli.
Oh, Vargul? Yeah, it's going into Denizens Volume 2. It's one of my favorite monsters. I actually made a
One,
bunch. Yeah, they're
one,
awful.
one, 1 to 4 permanent hit point loss
Yep,
in groups of 1 to 20.
yep,
I've literally heard players say, "I'd rather face wraiths than those
yep.
again."
They're horrible. Well, they're a swarm energy drainer of a form, and it's terrifying. It's like running into a pack of shadows. You run into like 10 shadows. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
awful.
for me, it's not just that level of awful. There's this level of like humiliation. You know, imagine you survive. Your fighter, your 10th level fighter, is now 18 hit points, and there's nothing you can do about it.
You better run your ass to the local cleric and get a high level restoration spell.
No, the only way to get him back in the old days was a
That's
wish.
that's second level, and that's an inflictive ability. That's an inflictive monster ability, and I would be
No,
real. I will not be going that route.
it
Ability
was
damage is bad enough.
it was AD&D first edition. I think it was the Monster Manual 2.
Monster Manual 2. Yep.
Yeah, and you needed a wish to get them back, and I think you only got so many back with a
Yeah.
wish. It's just like I don't hand out wishes, so you're fucked.
They don't they
Excuse
don't
my
have enough
French.
they don't have enough hit dice to justify the danger of dealing with them. And so they're one of those monsters that's too punishing for the reward. And so I would look really cautiously. I'm going to go with what I'm going to do is, just so you know what I'm planning on doing, I'm planning on having it inflict ability drain
Mhm.
constitution. And that way, for every constitution point you lose, or it'll be 2 points probably per, it could even be a D4. I haven't decided yet. But for every 2 points of con loss, that's 1 point of hit point per hit die that you lose permanently. So it yields the same result, but restoration will let you get it back. But you're
Admittedly,
going to
the
be casting
wish
that at like a fifth or sixth level spell.
admittedly the wish is crazy. The only way to get him back is crazy, but
Yeah.
I think that's what they're shooting for. And mind you, it's not meant to be like a first through fifth level monster. It's like I
No.
think it's actually rated like higher. So yeah, sure they've only got like maybe 5 or 6 hit points each, and there's only 15 of them. Your fighter should be able to whale through a whole bunch of them, no problem.
Oh yeah.
But if even one gets through, that's a scar you will remember to your dying days. And I love that idea. It's like, hey, Dad, what's that scar on your shoulder? Well, son, if you ever hear a noise that goes something like this, run. You know what I
And,
mean?
and that's and that's where the game master just has to be careful with it. But I'm always really cautious about like like for example, like slicer beetles. Slicer beetles are a great example. Is that they're not a particularly large creature, but yet they can one shot a character, or they can remove the character's ability to function. Like you get clobbered, and you lose a limb. That's permanent until you have significant power, and it's disproportionately powerful. So it's just one of those things you just have to be careful with. I mean, if you're playing an old school game like Shadow Dark, well, that's just how it works, or Dungeon Crawl Classic. That's just how it works. And then you just tuck it up. But like a modern gamer, we want to provide more outlets, more avenues for fixing things.
Mhm.
Um, it's bad enough that we break people's
Mhm.
shit. It's like we break people's weapons and armor with carry-added columns and rust monsters, where they mitigated the crap out of that in modern tellings of the D&D game.
They're
Where it's
just
like, no big deal.
we're Gen X, man.
Yeah,
Like you know not yesterday's, but the Sunday before's game. Our good friend Omenau, he lost a character he'd been running for 2 or 3 years, man. I mean, an Oriental Adventures Wu Jin at like 10 or 11th level. I mean, he had,
he
you
was
know, and
invested.
right, and he just made a couple of we got a little hung up because we were debating how a certain thing should work, and he's like, okay, screw it, I'm going to do something else instead. And he any one of the three things that he'd thought up after the fact would have saved his bacon, totally.
Yeah,
But And again, thanks off grid. That means a lot. But he took the loss, made up a new character, and uh, waited until the last 4 minutes of last night's game session to bring the new character in, because I was going around, going through each player what they were doing, and depending on what they did, give them a little time, in the spotlight, and it was like I said, we're Gen X, we're old school, we're
Yeah.
used to far worse than the things the later
Well,
players complain about.
anything can be fun if you're in the right mood for it, right? Like Toon, Paranoia, any of those silly games. If you're in the groove, you don't mind the arbitrary brutality, right? It's no big deal. But if you're playing in a home campaign, things are a little more narrative focused, and you're not, being brutal as a player. Your game master's not being brutal to you, and you're just kind of sort of enjoying those moments. Dying from a hangnail sucks. Throat leeches. I always use throat leeches or rock grubs as the example. Is that it's a fuck you monster, because there's not according to the rules in the AD&D rule book. There's not much you can do about it. It's a vorpal monster. You're screwed. So when I did the rock grub, my boss and I really got into it because he wants it in the monster manual, because that's where it first appeared. And I'm like, it's not a monster. It's not a matter of me trading blows with it, hit point wise. It's a hazard.
Or
So that's where I put like yellow mold and stuff too. It's a hazard. Green slime. It's not a monster you fight. It's a hazard. So, but I'm cautious about any of that kind of stuff. I don't want to bind anybody's hands. I don't want the game master to go, well, I don't want the player to go, well, completely arbitrary. I have no control here.
yeah, it's got. I mean, at the very least,
Bounce.
we've got it. We have it within our ability to give them hints and clues, like you said with the doorknob. You sure you want to do that? I've given you listen
Yeah,
to my
even if she
word.
reached for it, the ice kind of flowed up the gauntlet to the hand,
Oh
and
yeah.
I even so you feel like a waning of your strength as you reach for the door latch, and then the head even went ooh, and then she was like, "I'm going for it." I'm like, "Okay." And the most disturbing thing about that is there was a 5-foot alcove on the other side of it. It was a false door, and it was just a classic dungeon screw you. It was a very Gygaxian kind of a situation. I got the idea actually from 100 deadly doors that were in a Dragon magazine article when I was in high school. No, a wraith was trapped with, or a white or wraith essence was inside of the door. 2 negative levels. That was rough.
That is so messed up.
Yeah,
Oh
that was
my
pretty
god.
rough.
I mean that's literally. I mean you can't get much more fu than that, really. I mean, they got to touch the door, or they think they do. They think there's no way around it other than like a pass wall or something like that. A
Well,
pass
and the
wall
thing,
sounds like
if she
killing
wanted to, this is the funniest part, is that she was a 7th level paladin. She turned as a 5th level cleric. She could have turned. Now the door wouldn't have gone anywhere, but the essence of it would have collapsed and retreated, and so she would have been able to open the door freely. But it never occurred to her to read that this was. And so it's just one of those things that as a player she was still learning, the ropes, and it was a mega dungeon. And so the rules when I run mega dungeons are a little different. They're not as focused on like a narrative element. It's more like you're going in to explore and have fun. Let's draw some maps, and it's a very different experience than you're going into the dungeon for a very specific reason.
I wish I've got this mega dungeon I run every Halloween. I've run this dungeon like over a dozen times in my lifetime. It's an Arduin dungeon called Caliban, and it's cruising up on that time. The players went through it a couple years ago. They skipped the last one or two Halloweens. Like no, 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 not ready to go back. Not ready to go back. But I'm feeling the itch, man. It's hard though because when we play online, we get 2 or 3 hours and then see in a week.
Yeah,
And like
if you're
it's
lucky, assuming all the planets align. And so I have a question for you, because I was thinking about this the last week or so. What is your favorite non D&D derived role playing game? Arduin, Dungeon Crawl
Well,
Classics, CK, all of those removed. All of those removed. We filtered those out. What is your favorite non D&D derived role playing game?
I think the audience can answer this, but uh, it's Amber the Dice's role playing game.
Oh wow, that's awesome! Yeah, okay, great. That's a great choice.
Uh,
See, the thing is, there's no wrong choice here.
it is just me, you know. Rogers Lasney was a friend of mine growing up,
Oh, okay.
and the Amber Chronicles, if you will, uh, some of my favorite reading material. He was just one of the best, if not, at least for that period of time while he was alive. I don't know anybody who was better and more fun. And what you can do, not just in Amber, but there's this other game called Lords of Gossamer and Shadow,
I
which
love
is
Lords and Gossamer and Shadow. In fact, I prefer it to Amber. I prefer it
oh my
because it's
god,
more adventure-y. It's more based on adventure instead of throne warring.
dude, I'm trying to read through it. I got it. Man, there's so much packed into it. The print,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god, I'm like on page
the
50, and I've
the
been reading
enemies in there
for
are
months.
great. That
Every
race
time,
of the dimension travelers, that they even look cool. Like the artwork for them makes them look really. They're like the Gith Yankee of that setting. They're so cool.
everything about because I've skipped ahead and looked around and stuff. The whole idea of the whole Amberite, the I was trying to explain to my friends that the probability travel ability in AD&D in the Psionics book,
Hmm.
that's what that was. It was
Yeah,
shadow work.
totally.
You could
Yep.
you could literally like Gumby, walk into any book. I want to go to a place where I am king and they're waiting for my return. Okay, that's what we're doing tonight. All
Yeah.
right, cool, let's do it. There's literally uh, there's no limit. It's one of the just the most open and the most conducive to real actual role playing in any
I
game out there.
I just wish. See, the system and I just don't get along. I keep thinking about this, and I see. I also have Everway, and Everway was very much born out of Zelazny's Amber, right? And
Okay.
Everway was a little more. I don't want to use the word down to earth because that's not right. A little more reasonable in terms of the power level of it.
Okay.
But the concept of it is that infinite ways to travel the universe, and everything exists out there in these little bubbles.
Mhm.
And so I always thought that was really cool. And so Lords of Gossamer and Shadow scratches that itch because it has the infinite library that has all those. That has an infinite number of doors. Um, so yeah, that's good stuff. I really love Lords of Gossamer and Shadow.
If one of these days, it's like number one on my bucket list is to cultivate and meet and find and gather just the right people for that game, because there's so many people that I know would love it and then hate it, and others would just
Yeah.
love it all the way. It's like
What One of the mechanics I thought would be really kind of cool. Everway uses a tarot card deck, and
okay,
it was so the tarot cards didn't resolve things. What they did is they kind of flavored things, and so that when you turned a card for when you would try to overcome something, it was pretty much assumed that you were going to make it, but this determined like the consequences, like so you would still succeed probably, but it was like what were the circumstances and what kind of blowback do you have to deal with. And so like if the card was upright, it meant one thing. If the card was upside down, it meant the opposite. Typical tarot card stuff. I think that Lords of Gossamer Shadow would benefit from a similar situation where you would have some element of the universe that is slightly out of sync that you didn't count on. And I think that would be very beneficial. It wouldn't be pass fail, which is consistent with the system. Speaking of which, I actually met Eric and I actually had lunch with him, and he and I really got into it over dice because I was like, "Did dice hurt you as a child? Did you step on like a bunch of D4s, and that's why you don't like dice?" Because he was of the opinion that Deadlands should never have used dice; it should just use the poker deck. Because I was there demoing, I did some writing,
I,
some
I can
for
see where
Deadlands.
that idea would come up,
Yep. But it's still
But
randomization. It doesn't matter whether they're dice or a deck of cards. It's still random.
but the thing, like for me, see, I have role played in some very unusual locations. One was the at the beach in the Pacific Ocean. Me and a buddy were just role playing, out there because we were playing Gamma World of all games. And he's like, so it was always,
Nice.
we didn't have dice. We just, all right, cool. The DM was just, uh, and other places. And it's like Amber, that game would be like you could literally play it anywhere because you don't need anything. You know what I mean? You
No,
literally, I mean, your character. I mean, and there's very little on your character sheet. If you're off by a number, it doesn't matter in that
no,
game.
not at all.
You got good stuff or you got bad stuff or none. What's your ranks? Okay, cool. And the GM can just make shit up and you deal with it, and you could play it in the car and you would never have to worry about rolling dice or whatever. You could play it anywhere, literally anywhere. And
Have you seen
to
the
me,
TSR game system? I'll send you a link when we're done. It's a diceless role playing game where it's built around you get like the participants instead of rolling a d20, you guess a number, and its proximity to the number that the game master is thinking about determines the degree of success.
yeah, but what
And
if
it's
what if
pretty
your
slick.
players are
It's pretty
psychic?
awesome.
What if your players are psychic? That's not fair.
Well, we're all psychic, sweetie. But
I know,
the
I know.
fact of the matter is, the game master could always do like like fingers behind the back or whatever. But I've seen some games where you use a scheme, where it's like there was a cave punk role playing game where you did like you would throw like out your hand and then 1 through 5 basically, and so that was versus
Rochambeau,
the game
rock,
masters.
paper, scissors, that
It was
kind of
kind
thing.
of it was sort of kind of like that, but the number was
I
a factor.
I do the sort of same thing. Uh, Not because I don't trust my players, but because I've had players in the past, and I don't want. Whenever I do a D6, I tell my players roll a D6. Everybody roll a D6, and it's not the 1 or the 6. Sometimes it is, but I switch it up because it's a 1 in 6 chance. So maybe tonight it's a 4. If you roll a 4, you notice the thing or whatever, right? It's
Yeah,
usually because uh, in a previous group, I had at least one person who I keep track of die rolls. Okay, and this guy was just you know
lucky.
yeah, no, he was a fucking cheater. Even someone else told me they knew he was guilty of such antics, and I'm like, well, yeah, we can't have that.
Mhm.
Since I started playing online, I just when it comes to that, when it's a 20 sider or whatever, oh my gosh, you've rolled 4 crits tonight. Wow, imagine that. I know the
we
odds,
we play
and
online, and I trust the players. Even if we were to play with complete strangers, I trust the players because I keep track of the dice rolls too. And there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of leeway in terms of what game masters can choose to do, and I don't have to manipulate numbers to really hose a player. And now it's never my goal. But if a player was observed to be cheating, there's nothing to prevent me from the next encounter. Every monster just going on that one player. There's
Mhm.
nothing stopping me from making that decision.
um,
You know, and
and
they'll
like I said,
learn.
I don't invite anybody to my table that I think would do that. Um, but I have in the past. Everybody I got in
Oh
my
yeah,
Sunday game, I trust implicitly, and whatnot. But I just like to mix it up, and you know, to be honest, one of these days, uh, we'll get to play Amber or Lords of Gossamer and Shadow, and we won't need dice. And that's one of the things I
mm-hmm.
love about it is you can't you know you're in control when you make your character. All you got to do is just put one lousy point into good stuff, and you're golden. You know, but players, man, they'll take that extra disadvantage to get another advantage,
they'll sell back, or they'll sell back their status. So yeah, you're from a Shadow Court. You're not real Amberite, so that puts you at a huge disadvantage. But they will. But the thing is that they're building the character they want to play, and I understand that. See, that's one of the big things about Lords of Gossamer Shadow that really appeals to me, is that there isn't the disparity. I mean, mechanically there is to some extent, but there's not that. Oh, you're not from Amber, then you're dryer lint. It's like you're nothing. And that was the thing that always bothered me about Amber, is it's like, an Amberite can like jump in the middle of who's got a mediocre fighting ability can jump in a fight against an entire stadium of angry soccer fans and come out on top. And it's sorry, that's really too superhero-y for me. Lords of Gossamer Shadow is a little more balanced than that.
I cut my teeth on more superhero games than anything else, believe it or not. But right off the bat, it'd be like, why would I ever sell down? Amberite? Yes. I have Divine Ascended. I am now getting to play the character I've always wanted to play. Why I would ever sell down? No idea. I'll just bring snacks, keep a journal, and draw some stick figure sketches to get those bonus points. Or I'll just deal with it and I'll earn it later. Right?
I remember reading that the first time in the Amber book, and I remember reading it again in the Lords of Gossamer Shadow, and I really like how they you have to, and this if I was ever to run the game, I would be very particular about what I would allow to be worth points, because drawing stick figures isn't good enough. I would definitely be like, I would hold a slightly high standard. Now, if you sketched out like a lot of cool stuff that was happening, not just the stick figures, you put some effort into it, then I'm like, yeah, sure, that absolutely. Journal, absolutely, all the other stuff that you can do, right? But I would be very cautious, because if somebody else has like got artistic talent, that's different than somebody just drawing a stick figure with a thought bubble that says pew pew,
No, I was being hyperbolic. Back in the day, bringing snacks was called DM bribes, and
hell yes, bring a pizza, go up a level,
right? But what would you think about AI imagery? If someone spent the time to create some AI images,
I keep the player out of the group.
Okay.
No, that's hyperbole. I don't really mean that. I am aggressively AI because I'm starting to see physical product in drive-through that's AI. Mm-hmm. Not just the art, but also the text, the organization, etc. So the industry that I love has an STD right now, and I'm not happy about it.
Here's the thing. With writing, literally everybody who's ever spoken, and even some who haven't, should be able to write some coherent thoughts onto paper.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. But when it comes to art, most people can't do that. They can't, but they can write and come up with the perfect image of their character that would cost them hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get an artist to hand them the equivalent. And I don't know about you, but I like saving money, and I like seeing my ideas, without having to pay what I call the lion's share of every game product out there. Most of the money goes to the artists, and they don't deserve it. They wouldn't be drawing that image without the writer saying, "Draw me this."
I recently, but the relationship feeds both ways. There have been plenty of instances where the artist does something really kick-ass, and then it gets put in front of the writer, and the writer goes, "Ooh," and then they take it from there. It's synergistic, right? But I don't think I think it's risky. I think AI art is just lazy. I realize it's a tool. Like, at what point is Photoshop AI, right? Because brushes take away, but you have to know how to use the brushes. I think about like Blade Runner, the last Blade Runner, where there was that woman that had the device that let her sculpt memories, and she was in an environment where it was like a holographic projection system, but she wasn't just grabbing like a birthday cake; she was sculpting it. She was using the device on her chest to make tiny little detail changes. But somebody had to create those assets to begin with. Somebody had to create the back end software that let her make those little minute changes. And then, but ultimately, it was all her expertise, right? So that's a that was just her paintbrush, right? That was a very skilled artist with a paintbrush.
Yeah,
But
that's how I feel with AI art. Like, because I create a bunch for my games because otherwise I'm going to have to describe it, and I can't get it. I don't have the time to spend 10 minutes describing something in a 3-hour session. But if I can go,
but
hey, I created this image. This is what you see.
but you're not putting it out. You're not putting it on drive through for five
Oh
ninety
no
nine.
no 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 no
So
no no.
that's a big difference. And so
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
joining a community of creatives as an equal, presumably as an equal, but you're also using a tool set that's been trained on their expertise, which is another pretty significant step and a problem. Um,
Mm.
it's a challenging topic. It really is. There's no, but me personally, all of my products has an AI disclaimer that says nothing except for
Mhm.
uh, a little grammar check and then a lot of spelling check. That's the only tools I use, and I work in Google Docs, and so I don't even use like
Same
an
here.
outside AI
Yeah,
tool.
yeah, it's built in.
And
I
that's just
love Google.
it's a personal choice. But I'm seeing a
Uh,
lot of. I
however,
just took a tour today, and there's a lot out there.
there's a couple of games like Red Room used to, I don't know if you're familiar with them. I used to I'm good friends with them, and they stopped using AI, but I have like versions of their game. Like one, the original had AI art. I compare it to the newer one, and I'm like, sorry, but the AI was better. It literally was.
Oh,
I, I you know, not because I favor one over the other. Because honestly, I favor good old fashioned black and white line art. That shit drives me freaking. I just love that shit. Savage
Timothy
Sword of Conan,
Truman, Holloway,
Vampirella, Creepy Magazine.
hmm
Some of my favorite
Michael
things in the
Plug.
world. But when Miguel, that's the guy who runs the Red Room, when he was making these images, it was for a Western game. Okay, because he's done a bunch of games. Like he's written like 60 or 70 game books in like 3 years, and they're all freaking amazing. But the Western game, right? I'm going through the art, and I'm like, okay, most of it's like photorealistic, and I'm like, for a Western, that's kind of what I want. Growing up, all Westerns were, TV shows and movies. There weren't. I didn't read a lot of comic books or anything like that. So my earliest memories are like the black and white Lone Ranger and all the westerns I watched growing up. So seeing the western genre and here's a gunfight scene or here's just a town image, I'm like that picture would have cost Miguel probably more money than he made selling the entire book. Just that
Oh
one
yeah,
image,
if it's
because he does
good.
Lulu and um, somewhere else, and now he's finally on Amazon. But some of his book runs, he's made like profit, maybe $400 or $500,
Yeah.
and then he goes on to write a new book and whatever. Some have made way, 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 way more. But I'm like, that's not right. He wrote a great, fantastic product. He's literally written the best Western game I've ever read. Okay, and that's like one of my top three favorite genres. And I'm like, but because it was AI, people just shat all over it without reading it. It's like he could have just left it blank.
Well, see, that's the thing about the art, right? Is that it can make the text better, or it can ruin or to prevent good text from being read because somebody didn't like the art. And that's I was pricing out how much it would cost to do like a 128-page book with a consistent level of art and keep your costs at a reasonable level. And it was like I was spending twice as much on art as I would on the text.
Mm-hmm.
So if the product is viewed as a whole element, 2/3 of the pie is just art. And I'm like, wow, I kind of puts in perspective what I do, which is just produce text. And I'm like, I kind of maybe I went down the wrong path here. Um,
And that's not fair, and that's not right. And
yeah,
um, I mean, when we're gone, that's all there's going to be. 100 years from now, artists will not be making anything. They won't be needed. The same with like AI music. I don't like it much, But I know that's where the music industry, the people who sell music and have the ability to do so, they're going to go, yeah, we don't need you kids. We'll just we heard your demo. We ran it through the AI. It's ours now. Good luck.
But there's an acceptable level, right? Is that when you want a cheap cheeseburger, McDonald's is always available, right? And it's as bad as they're willing to make it, right?
Mhm.
And so if they could make it 1% cheaper by making 1% of it less good, they would. This is the absolute lowest this cheeseburger can be. But
Mhm.
if somebody could make a good quality burger, there's somebody just opened up a new burger joint in the local mall, and it's a good burger. It's a really good burger. I don't know if it's a $14 good burger, but it's a good burger, and you can tell the difference.
Mhm.
I think art's going to be the same way. If you want to go to a concert and there's a guy up there who's just working a sound system, that's different than like a band. And so I think that they're going to have their place, but they'll be like treated as a boutique item, you know, Timu
Mhm.
versus Pandora, Um,
Mhm.
so I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation. I don't think that it's going to completely go away. I know the difference between good peanut butter and bad peanut butter.
Mhm.
I know the difference. I can take that. I prefer Skippy Natural, but I've had Dollar General peanut butter and it's okay. Uh, but I prefer the Skippy. Let's see, I'm reading the
Well,
person who just made a post here.
yeah, that's our good friend James.
Okay.
The powers that be want all of that.
Yeah.
And they're going to win because we
Yeah.
can't do anything about it without resorting to things that we can't talk about because they've already taken over that aspect of our lives. Truth
Well, I
and
mean,
freedom.
even in Michigan right now, we're fighting data centers. I mean, they're actively being fought and they're actively being blocked. So it's a long term problem to solve. It's going to
Right,
take a
and
while.
unfortunately, the we leaving it up to the younger generations isn't a good strategy, you know, and fighting dollars to dollars, corporate to public is not also a great strategy. You know what I mean? It's like I was explaining to my son. When you're outnumbered, 100 or 1,000 to 1, you're going to lose. There's
Unless you
no
change the odds.
or the rules or the game, whatever.
Exactly, but that changes. But changing the rules changes the odds.
And unfortunately, the time honored strategies of such are, they're where most people will not, step up for that engagement,
Well,
and
we've kind of bred the fight out of the younger generations because we've taught them that fighting is wrong. It's better to sit
well,
and scream and yell and stomp your feet, but that's not really fighting. So I think there are still fighters in the newer generations. I do. I think there are. I
I
certainly hope
raised,
so.
I know
Um,
I raised one. Okay, that replaces me when I'm gone. There's one. There's
yeah,
one guy out there willing
I
to
know my
literally
nieces and
fight.
nephews are fighters, but I see a number of them are not fighters. They're very
Mhm.
passive. But not all are. I mean, I know some people who have some very strong kids that are going to be great fighters. So I don't know. I think it's easy to dismiss the younger generations because that's what's always happened. There's always the older generation always talks shit about the younger generations. It's an easy thing to do. But I don't listen to a lot of the newer music, but yet I just heard something recently that I thought was absolutely adorable and charming and just beautiful. And I was like, this is brand new. God, I hope it's not AI. I was like, please don't be AI. Because Phil Bricado of White Wolf fame was like passing around this really cool band that he had come across, and it turned out that
Mm.
that they were actually AI, and I was like, I was disappointed because their first album was great. The second album wasn't that good, but
I,
I was like,
I,
well, that's pretty typical. First album
I
great, second
found
album not
for
great.
me, in the last 25 years, there've only been like less than 5 bands that I said I like these guys. I'm going to get some of their stuff. For the most part, I'm just going backward in time when it comes to music. I like learning about the musicians themselves, and I like knowing
Mhm.
that they were real people, and I like knowing that even though I can't meet them because they're gone, maybe someday I will in the next journey or whatever. But at the very least, I can appreciate real people who did real things. A lot of screw ups in the music industry. Let's not, but sometimes that's the best part.
Well,
Watching them.
Amy
You
Winehouse is a
know,
great example. Is that she performed off of her pain, and that made her a very powerful performer. But yet she was doomed to destroy herself, which is very poetic, but it's still tragic, right? So, and there's just so many
and
performers that are just
you will
destroyed by
never
their own
get that.
talent.
I mean, you'll never get that. You'll never be able to capture that
No,
lightning in a bottle of AI. And real quick, if they're going to make data centers, they should make them in space. Therefore, they've got all the free refrigerant they need in the vacuum of space. But if you do any of the listening or studying like I have about you know physics and space travel and all that crap, and the Fermi paradox and where are they all? More than likely, they're all asleep, waiting for things, various
I
theories.
just I just want them to stay away. I don't want a more technologically advanced species than ourselves coming in contact with us. That never works out for the less
I
sophisticated species.
really,
It never
I'm
works
pretty
out.
sure. I'm pretty sure you don't have anything to worry about because the
No,
distances and the requirements and all the things. People just think, oh, we just need to make faster engines. You can't. That's not possible. That's fantasy, and a whole bunch of other things. That would be required. It's not just the speed and the distance. It's what happens to the people along the way because our fastest creation has traveled one light day toward
hmm
its 4 light year journey in 50 years. We're
yep.
not going anywhere. No one's coming to see us. We got to make do here and hope we don't screw it up for
Oh, we all know it's all about the artificial singularities and wormholes. That's what it's all about, baby. Got to do
I,
that.
I don't think that's even feasible. And even then, uh, to what extent? So we go and visit some people who go, invaders, kill the invaders, kill
Exactly,
the air.
exactly. So all
I
of a
mean, you
sudden
just
we're the
roll,
problem, right?
you just roll
Or
into.
we open up to another planet that they're more technologically advanced and now they can come to us.
Uh-huh.
So not every race is going to be like Alan Dean Foster's Humanics, right? The Thrang
Right.
or Thrax, the insect people. Um, but I'm open to the idea of it. I think it's very. I think I love speculative, like positive science fiction. Doesn't all have to be dark and terrible. Um,
Yeah, I do a regular Saturday show. Have done it for years and years and years, because I was a sci-fi guy way before I was a fantasy guy. Just because I didn't read fantasy until I was like 12 or 13 or 12. Yeah, 12. But there was plenty of Doc Savage and comic books and all that
mhm.
other stuff. And I absolutely wish there was all that. But everything I've studied and learned from the math and the requirements and everything else, there's probably nothing out there. What it took for us to be what we are took so many precise, specific things that would have to happen elsewhere. The likelihood is unbelievable. There's very specific things like having Jupiter, a big planet that absorbs all the things that would crush us, the asteroids and things like that. They usually hit Jupiter first
hmm
because of its gravity. It's like a giant freaking cosmic magnet.
Well,
It's
also our moon also, and the density of our atmosphere. There's a lot of factors.
yeah,
But the
there's
thing
this
is,
is
though,
like
is there was something that was said in Asteroid City that I thought was really cool, and that was I doubt there's anything other life out there. And then one person pointed out it's an infinite universe, and if something's infinite, then the likelihood are 100%.
well, it's not
So,
infinite.
but
I mean,
well,
we kind of know of a place where it stopped, and there seems to be nothing except the expanding of the Big Bang. So what there is, is kind of like technically a finite amount that started from the Big Bang, and it's just shooting out at speeds, uh, with its head start, so to speak. So we're just like we would just be catching up to stuff that's already part of the Big Bang, and there's nothing but empty space beyond that. And
Absolutely, the empty part of it, but
yeah,
scattered between, so or little points along the way. So I
which
don't know.
makes it
I'm not an
infinite.
astrophysicist. I'm a biologist. That's my perspective, and so I
I
always
mean,
see
life will find a way, but I think if
life will.
anything,
Yeah.
we'll make it ourselves more
Well,
than.
we'll never encounter it, I hope. I sincerely hope. Like there was a movie called Europa Incident, and they went to Europa, and it did not work out. And so I don't want to meet alien life forms. There's enough on Earth that's hostile. Why make things worse for ourselves? Movies are full
Yeah,
of those threats too. It's like almost every alien that you run into is really hostile.
it makes for great fantasy because even science fiction is fantasy, and
Yeah,
I'll run the hell out of that crap. But the more I learn, the harder it gets for me to go. Yeah, I'm just gonna forget about that thing that I know that makes it impossible. You know what I mean? Which is weird because
yeah.
with
Well,
fantasy, with like
it's like Event Horizon.
medieval,
Like the outer darkness is terrifying. It's like that's you may not want to find out is what it comes down to. So
that's what I'm actually. I'm working on a sci-fi campaign that's trying to you know. Not compromise what I've learned, not like, well, yeah, I know you can't do this, but we're going to do it here anyways, knowing full well we can't do the thing. Trust me, it's not easy, but I'm getting there little bit by little bit. But it's
well, I
weird
mean,
how
sci-fi.
it's,
It's just your vehicle for exploration, right? It's like Ashen Stars is a very different experience than Mothership. They're which is very different from Frontier Space. So it's to me, I think they're all equally valid in that respect. It's like you kind of pick. Rocket Age takes place within our solar system. It has a crap ton of sophons, so it's just the flavor that you want. It's like your ice cream.
Mhm. Yeah, the the fantasy genre, the world, of fantasy writing and gaming and stuff like that, has so many more absolutely just ridiculous premises that we just like whole hog. It's yeah, no problem. We're doing that. Yeah,
Well, you think
wizards
about
and
your typical fantasy world. Like, there's a ton of non-human races, all occupying the same niches. You know, and
just
it's
absolute, just ridiculous. Make
yeah, but just
absolutely no
embrace it.
sense.
That's just how it works.
Exactly. But I can't do that with sci-fi. Damn it, I just can't.
Yes,
Can't
you
do it anymore.
can. Yes, you. Depending upon which
Well,
flavor it is, like
well,
Mothership. Mothership basically says it's humanity, and when you do encounter something that's an alien, it's inevitably going to be really dangerous. So there are alien races.
the only like angle of attack I can deal with that's not the other one is the what do they call it, space opera, Star Warsian. Just we know it's all hokum. We know it's just pure fantasy, but it's
Mhm.
cool as shit.
Are you familiar with Ashen Stars at all?
No.
That's Pelgrane's space opera game, but to be honest, it leans more into the direction of Traveler, but on any given topic, it leans away from it. And one
Mhm.
of the things to do in there is they have what's referred to as meson shrapnel, and anything that alters the way the game works as a behind the scenes element is called meson shrapnel. So, like in Star Trek, oh well, you can't transport down to the planet's surface. Well, why not? Well, you just can't. There's a disturbance in the atmosphere of the planet, and
Mhm.
it'll shred you. So you just explain away anything that doesn't quite fit, even though it fit last session. It doesn't fit this session. You blame it on meson shrapnel. And I always thought that was kind of a cool idea. It's like, well, that's how it works this week.
Okay. At first, I thought that was a French expression, but you mean like Masons?
Mesons, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. So because Robin D. Laws clearly studied space opera, but to me, it feels more like Traveler than it does Star Wars. Like I don't think there's no default race in that game that has any like force powers or anything. It's not like Guild
Mhm.
Space.
So I was doing for a while. I picked up the original Flash Gordon comic strips in hardcover by Kitchen Sink,
Oh wow. Okay.
and things like that, harkening back to the pulps and things like that, where they didn't have a freaking clue.
No.
There was no such thing as astrophysics back then. They just made shit up, and it worked. It worked gloriously. So, and even when it failed miserably, nobody knew. They were just like, "Oh, this is cool, Lion Man. All right, I'm in." You know,
Well, as long as it's internally consistent, who cares? That's the world
right?
building. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, we all know that you can't have three moons like with one orbiting the Earth and then two orbiting the third. It won't work. You know, you end up with all kinds of three body problems. But it looks cool as hell. When viewed through the atmosphere of the planet and some awesome, cinematic element. So yeah, like I said, linemen are cool.
Exactly, exactly. So I have two different sci-fi campaigns. I'm kind of playing around with, but that's the hard thing is finding players and getting them on the right day, the right schedule, etc. Uh, the curse of Thursday night never going to happen. Don't even try. One way
Well,
or another, it falls apart because you're just
oh,
starting the weekend too freaking early,
did
or you're
you
not
did
married.
you wish everybody happy Gary Gygax Day? That's
No.
today.
Oh,
It's Gary
nice.
Gygax Day.
Happy,
Yay!
happy Gygax Day. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him.
Yep.
But I would also not be playing Traveler and other things if it weren't for him.
Well, absolutely. You give credit where
Good
credit's due.
influence.
You wouldn't be playing RuneQuest if it weren't for Stafford, or Cthulhu with Sandy Peterson.
Mhm.
They're all equally valid but you're looking at it from the standpoint of progenitors, right?
Mhm.
Primarchs, to use a 40K term. Yeah, it's Gygax and Arneson, right? Arneson created Worlds and Monster Book, and Gygax kind of sort of did a lot of the other stuff. So credit where credit's due.
Mhm.
These are flawed individuals, but
Yeah.
they did great things.
I absolutely cannot stand that argument. Well, if they didn't do it, somebody else would have. I have no reason to believe that. There's no way you can prove that's like the biggest of what ifs. People who really despise
Why
Gygax, that's what they say.
why dismiss? I guess I don't see the point of dismissal. It's like
I run into a
somebody would
lot of
have designed calculus if Sir Isaac Newton hadn't done it. Um, but there's a lot of people behind what Gygax did. I mean, there was all the TSR bulletins that they circulated long before it was a company, and there were war gamers playing like very sophisticated war games, and H.G. Wells creating floor wars, and
little orc wars and
yeah, I mean, but it's a culmination, right? It's like somebody came up with a hot fudge sundae. I'm gonna have to talk shit about somebody creating a hot fudge sundae. Hot fudge sundaes are delicious. So there's no reason to take that away from somebody. I don't see any point to that. Coney dogs are delicious. Why do we have to figure out where they exactly came from? They're delicious. I don't care. Um,
I
but you
want
should definitely
I
acknowledge.
want both.
See, that's now I want a Coney dog followed by hot fudge sundae.
Heck
But
yeah,
I think
man.
it's fine. It's important to kind of. I mean, we all know that Robert E. Howard was a complex guy. H.P. Lovecraft talked some serious shit that he shouldn't have. Um, I'm woke by most definitions, but the fact of the matter is, I still really appreciate their work. I just don't necessarily share their same beliefs. M.A.R. Barker, Tecumel stuff, some pretty inappropriate shit, but wonderful world building.
And again, Peterson, not Peterson, Lovecraft and Barker uh, come from times we can't even imagine.
Yeah. Well,
The day to day, everyday life and lives they lived, we cannot possibly, we can get an idea, but they had to live those lives and they experienced a whole bunch of things that made them and brought them to those points. And I'm going to take the good where I as far as I can take it until I start running into those bad things. that they were, you
and
know.
and the bad things are worth discussing. I think that the problem is that some of the newer generations avoid discomfort, because it can lead to controversy and discomfort. And but if you're intellectually and emotionally prepared to discuss things in actual discourse, like they said these things, we no longer believe that that's appropriate. Well, let's talk about why it's not appropriate. I agree, it's not appropriate, but let's talk about it. Well, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Well, it should. Uncomfortable things should make you feel uncomfortable, but you should still discuss them because that's what rational people do. And you come away with it completely disagreeing with them. Like, I believe X, I believe Y. Okay, that's fine, but we discussed it like rational adults.
Right, and if we keep burying, every aspect of the past, not that I believe the old chestnut that we're destined to relive it. There's no way we're going to relive the War of 1812. Okay, what they mean, and they need to rephrase it, is that we're going to repeat many of the same mistakes. And
Yes,
we need to try not to do that and learn from those mistakes, but we have to have record of those mistakes so that somebody doesn't think that's a good idea in the future.
yep,
Because
pretty
one of
simple.
these days, someone's going to think that the final solution is a great idea. Let's all get on board with that. But if we don't keep
Definitely worth
talking,
discussing.
if you don't keep bringing it up or reminding people in history class or whatever, there's going to be a couple of generations from now, they're going to think they just came up with the best idea ever, to solve a really otherwise easy to solve problem, but they're just going to take the dumbest way to handle it. And
Well, I
I don't
mean,
want to see that. I won't be here, but
I'm a big fan of educating yourself. And a couple of years ago, I was in an entomology class studying bugs, and one of the exercises was we had to like turn to the person next to us in both directions and be like, give like a little mini lecture on something. And there was this thing about this beetle that I thought was kind of cool. It had an unusual arrangement of how the legs went up inside the body. I thought it was cool. It's biomechanical. And so I turned to the young woman and I started talking about that. And she goes, "Why would you ever need to know that?" Now, she's not wrong. It's probably not going to come up with a conversation,
why are you in this
but
class?
it's education.
Right?
It's just
So
knowledge, right?
why
It's
was
just,
she not why was she in that class? She understood.
she was there to check off a checkbox so she could get out of school so she could find, I don't know, whatever she was doing. But everyone in that class thought they would never have to learn another thing ever again. I talked to them about it because I was the old guy. I was like the guy who was like 30 years older than everybody else in class. I was like almost the same age as the teacher, and she was close to retirement age. So, but that was really funny because I mean, on one hand, she's right. What's the point? But on the other hand, it's just a cool factoid. I thought it was literally look at the two bugs, look at the way their bodies are shaped in terms of like where the legs are, and they're completely different, and that's cool.
My
So yeah,
son is a huge bug fan. He never got out of that phase as a kid. As a matter of fact, his stories and world building that he's building is like very insect centric. I'm sure you guys would have a whole lot of interesting factoids to share back and forth. Um, yeah, I've come across that same sort of attitude. Why would you ever need to know that? Well, so nobody ever needs to know that. Somebody's got to know that. You know what I mean? And who are you to say who doesn't need to know that? Is so you don't care. But could you have thought of a snottier thing to possibly say?
yeah. Well, and
You know
that
what I
was the
mean?
exercise too. I
If
would have
you
been
get her
perfectly
age
happy
back,
to just sit there and not talk to her at all. Everyone in that class, for the most part, was very nice. But there were
but I mean,
moments early on where it was like, uh, okay, whatever.
but I mean, didn't the teacher just explain that you were going to do that?
Yeah,
Right? You know,
this was accepted. Everyone was working their way through the exercise, and I was thinking to myself, I'm already going into this class with a 4 point. Like I don't, I know how to learn stuff, and but clearly the teacher felt there were others in the class that would benefit from it. I'm like, okay, I'd rather just sit here quietly and just, you know,
take
learn.
notes, answer the
Yep.
questions on the page,
And when the
go
teacher
about.
calls on me to answer a question, I'll be like, okay, here it is. So But yeah, overall, people were in that class were very nice. It was just that one weird little interaction where I'm still kind of like 15 years later, it still haunts me.
How's it going, Mike? Welcome to the show. Yeah, I guarantee, there was this comedian uh, who was talking about dealing with his nephew or something, and the nephew was just going on and on and on and on about Pokemon, and this kid was, the comedian was like, couldn't care less. Let me show you what this feels like. Takes It says he takes the kid into the bathroom and starts talking about all the soaps. It's like,
We are all fanatics about something. I learned that a long time ago, and I wish I was as into my studies as I was into like D&D in like middle school.
I would
I
have
would
never
have gone a
graduated
lot farther.
if I had not learned that I needed to learn because of D&D.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
I would have ended up literally in the military taking orders for the rest of my life and not giving two shits. It's like I'm just doing what I'm
Yeah.
told, just, you know, making it
It,
through.
it it is interesting talking to non-gamers about or like guys that talk about sports. To me, I think it's the same thing. It's you're into what you're into, and that's awesome. Um, but it's not like one of the funniest things that ever happened when my wife and I bought the house up here in Midland. Because I live up in Hope, we live outside of Midland, and so it's very rural, and so we have a handful of maybe 7 households that are our neighbors. And one of the kids came over because they were all meeting people and they wanted to meet the new neighbors and stuff. And they came over to see because I keep tortoises. They came over to visit the tortoises. And this kid who I'd never met before in my life, wearing a Michigan State sweatshirt. I've never spoken to this kid before. This nice kid named Cole. Cole goes, so, and very kind of sort of critically goes, are you an MSU fan? Are you a Spartans fan? Or are you a Wolverines fan? And I kind of just looked at him and I went, well, which are you? And he was wearing a Spartans sweatshirt. And I was like, well, clearly you're a Spartans fan. That's great. I said, I don't have a preference. But if we went to the event and I was on your side, I would be cheering for your team. But I don't really care one way or the other.
Mhm. Yeah, I played a couple years of football and played every sport there was up until I realized one, I was going to have to be showering with men if I continued doing this, and two, I discovered Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I'm doing, and there's no end in sight. And I mean, I did other stuff. I worked for a private investigation company for a while. I did a bunch of other stuff. I was in bands and stuff, but always kept coming back to this because I don't know if I'm the only one. I'm probably not, but I find myself thinking about the next game, what I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do. You know, um,
It's that missing puzzle piece of your soul, man, that we talked about. That missing
yeah,
puzzle piece.
it's like
Well, I just
this.
got a phone call, my dear friend. I also have to work on the were rat. I'd like to get this thing done today so I
No
can
worries.
work
I
on the
usually
next
only do this for
monster.
2 hours, but you came in. You're always
Yep.
welcome, buddy. It's only Monday.
Appreciate that.
Maybe we'll see you
Thank you,
again.
everyone, for indulging us. We really appreciate it.
I'll probably be reviewing the monster book toward the end of the week, so stay tuned. Uh, have a great day, man. It was really nice seeing you
Take care,
again.
my brother. You be safe out there, okay?
Will do.
Bye.
Everybody else out there in TV land, great show, great fun, great discussion out there. Football and rugby, great 10 and 11 defensive left tackle. Played middle linebacker and right guard. A lot of fun, a lot of fun. But I discovered D&D, and what a ride! I just we're so lucky to get to do this. Even just a little bit versus what we watch everybody else do. They don't get to. They don't have the magic. They don't have the stories to tell of things that they didn't really do, but the people know they did them. If you know what I mean. Um, so go out there and uh, revel in your past and potential adventures that you're going to have. I can't wait to talk to you guys again tomorrow. But like I always say, I got some people stuff to do, and you don't want any details.